Hello everyone, this video is being made to showcase a machine that's going to be listed on Craigslist shortly, and it is a Kenmore vintage all-metal sewing machine, and it's the 902 model. This is a series of models called the 900 series. It's from the early 1960s. This would have come out around 1962, give or take. And unlike many of the machines from that time period that Sears sold, this particular machine is not in one of the green colors and neutral colors that Sears sold a lot of. It's actually shown in a cream and a lavender color, and I think hopefully it should show up well enough on the video here. This is, of course, an all-metal sewing machine. It is heirloom quality. It was made in Japan by a company called Maruzen, as many of them were at the time. And if you see any of the photos of my overhaul and restoration of the machine, I think several of them show the machine with the top off, and you can see inside and see all the amazing steel that they used to construct it with. This machine, like many machines of the time, is set up to do a number of different things. It can do straight stitching, of course, and it can also do zigzag, and those are the built-in features of this machine. The machine is also capable of doing quite a lot of other things, including buttonholes and decorative stitches with the accessories. And I actually have, and if I can get my video down below 15 minutes, I'll try to talk a little bit about the accessories. But this has the original accessories for making buttonholes as well as decorative stitches. So I'm going to go ahead and do some stitching for you, let you hear the machine run. On the listing for Craigslist, you will see all of the various overhaul maintenance items that were done to the machine. I don't cover them in the video because I list them on the ad, and I really want you to hear the machine run and watch it sew, because this is very important. Sometimes you'll see a machine and it will be advertised as running, and what that means is that the machine is not locked up and that the needle bar is moving up and down. That does not mean that a sewing machine is actually ready to sew anything. Sewing machines are fairly precise devices, and not precise in a digital sense, but they are designed to work in a certain way, and if they haven't had maintenance or no one's used them in a long time, they really do require a full going through, which is what I do for the machines before they're ready to sew. What you're seeing here, I don't know if they're picking up on the camera, I have a number of materials that I do all my own test stitching before I get the machine ready to list. So I'm going to go back through some of the materials I've already done for testing and then show you what it can do. So I've got it set on a straight, make sure I have my, straight stitch long, and I want to kind of demonstrate for you how it runs. And I'm putting in a new row of stitches here, and I'm going slow just so I can control it, but I'll speed it up on one of my other materials here in a minute. You can see, let's see here, I think I'll come back. Just doing that, let you hear it run, fairly quiet machine. And let's take this out and I'll show you the stitch sample. So the last one that I did is right here on that very outer edge. See if I can get the, there we go. I'm trying to get it to focus this time of day. My light's a little dim. And then you can see on the back side I have green thread. I try to use different color threads so you can see. That's a pretty nice balanced stitch. It's not acting weird. It's really doing beautiful. And this, by the way, this fabric was actually 6 layers. There are 2 layers of a drapery fabric and then 4 of like a lining material. I think it was used to block sunlight through windows. And this is a heavy upholstery fabric. You guys, if you've seen my other videos, you've seen me use this before. Nice to see heavy fabric and that the machine can handle it. I'll just run it through there. And I'll also do some sort of back tacking for you guys. Some sewing machines have reverse or back tacking buttons that you push, or levers, and they sort of stay in reverse if you want to. This one is like many machines today. It has a button that you push down and hold if you want to go backwards. I'm going to show you guys, the top here is in white, and I don't think it will, well, maybe it will show up a little bit. Yeah, but I'll show you the back side. This is, of course, the green. This is that textured fabric of mine that I have, so it makes the stitches look a little hard to read them, but I've got some other things to show you here. This was a sample I did earlier when I was testing the machine, and as you can see I've got a straight stitch here in white, and then in green I did a decorative stitch with one of the cams. Here's the other side of that. You can see. I'll run this through again for you. This is a lighter fabric. This is actually linen fabric, fairly easy for any machine should be able to do this. In fact, let me, I'll actually switch over to a zigzag pattern so you guys can see. Let's put it over here. And I try when I can, don't always get to do this, but I've got lighter threads and darker fabrics. I really want you guys to see the stitch quality. This is actually a zigzag, and then I ended up running into my straight stitch over here, so it looks like a blind stitch. But I wanted you to see, again, the quality of the stitch, pretty balanced and tight. There's nothing, there's really nothing out of balance at all, and that's what you want in a sewing machine. I've also got, I had done some, this is 4 layers of marine vinyl. A lot of people I sell machines to are doing seat covers these days for cars and boats. And this is garment leather. So I'm going to run these back through so you can see how they perform. This is a sort of a flexible wallet weight garment leather. I'm not using a leather tip needle now because I was sewing a lot of different things, but you can certainly do that with that machine. And if you're going to sew any garment leather of any great amount, I would definitely use that. So now you can see the stitching on the leather. Again, it handled it no problem, and that's even with a fabric needle. This is 4 layers of marine vinyl. A lot of people who contact me want a machine that's heavy duty. None of the new sewing machines are, to speak of, and that's what they want. That's what they're looking for. I'm going to go back to straight here so I can make this easy for you folks to see. And I'll come straight down. And this vinyl is fairly, I'd say it's a pretty decent weight vinyl, and I have a little shorter stitch length than I usually use. And then it has a fabric, a sort of a foam backing, so it's pretty thick stuff. And you can see here, it just sews beautifully. It really is willing to handle this thicker material. One of the last things I want to do, it looks like we'll have some time to talk about these, and that is the accessories that come with the machine. Now, a lot of modern sewing machines, those that are computerized, and even some of the vintage machines, when you got toward the late 60s, they tried to put in a lot more features that were built into the machines, and they were automated. And so an example of this would be there were certain stitches that they would put inside the machine, and they would build what they called cams inside the transmission of the machine. And I've restored machines that have these. Then they started adding other things like buttonholers, because traditionally, if you made a buttonhole on a sewing machine back in the day, you had an attachment. And the attachments had been made for a couple of generations. They've been around a long time. And you would have a special device that would work with the sewing machine to create things like buttonholes, or you'd have little darning rings set up for darning. And what would happen is those attachments were always sold separately, and then as the years went by, companies started putting them as built-in features. One of the downsides of having a machine with lots of built-in features is that it makes the mechanics of the machine quite complicated and complex, and they are more apt to be fussy with you when you're working with them. And a lot of new machines have this problem because a brand new sewing machine is asked to do quite a lot. Think of it as a really complicated dance move. And when you combine that with the poor construction, it's no wonder that they seldom survive 6 months in the hands of someone sewing with them regularly. So what I have found and discovered in my research online is that many sewers prefer, when they're making something like a buttonhole, to use what's called a buttonhole attachment. Now, all of the vintage era machines, or many of them, had these you could get. If you went into Sears, in this case, this is a Kenmore, you'd go into the Sears store and you'd say, how much is the machine? They had the machine, let's say they had the machine priced or on sale. Then if you wanted a cabinet, you paid extra. This has a beautiful cherry cabinet that's actually included with the machine here, but when it was sold new, it wouldn't have included a cabinet. You would have had to pay extra, and then they had all sorts of accessories and add-ons that you could get. One of the most important is a buttonhole attachment. Now, this buttonhole attachment works with its own gear. I'm going to lift the bobbin plate here to show you. Down below here, of course, is the bobbin case, and the bobbin, there's a little pinion gear, I call it, well, it's actually a little lever gear right here. And as the machine operates, it actually will drive a little gear here. You can see this underneath. This is the plate that you use when you're going to use the buttonholer. And what that does is, the reason that matters, it sounds like a sort of a boring fact here, but it matters because it makes the sewing machine's job simpler. The sewing machine is going to be largely focused in the needle area on creating the stitch. Whereas with the buttonholer, you have this other separate mechanism running the buttonholer, and the buttonholer's job is to actually move the fabric in a motion to create buttonholes. What this does, essentially, is it means that the buttonholes you make with a buttonhole attachment are far finer and more balanced and beautiful than they are when you use a built-in buttonhole mechanism in a machine. And if you go online and go into some of the sewing forums, you'll see this, where people are like, no, I want buttonholes to be beautiful. I'm going to create a garment. Well, the sewing machine company said, well, maybe you need that extra built-in feature. They're trying to sell machines. But the reality is, having an attachment they're easy to use. It takes about 5 minutes to set up. It doesn't take long, and then you make all of your buttonholes, and when you're done, you put it away and you go back to sewing with your regular sewing stitches. The last thing I wanted to show you all is this. You look at this really cool Greek key, and this is one of 30 patterns that you can make with this machine. Now again, they're not built in. They're actually, see if I can find the Greek key. I put it away. Here's another example. These are the little discs. This is not the Greek key. This is one of the other patterns. And it shows you a picture of the pattern you'll get. It's numbered. And they're very easy to use. There's a little hatch in the top of the machine. You drop the disc inside. You adjust your settings, and you make really amazing stitches. I mean, this really is kind of a fun stitch. It's called, this particular one, this Greek key is actually what's called a reverse stitch. And you have a total of 30 different decorative patterns. This machine also comes with a little vintage Kenmore needle threader with Kenmore written on it. But anyway, the point of all this is to say you have a lot of options. For many of you, you may not use any of these decorative stitches at all. But if maybe you want to sew a bib for a baby, or you want to sew a tablecloth, if you are one of those sewers that really enjoys decorative stitching, or maybe you never have and you never even thought about it, you can do it. But again, the beauty of all this is you can make buttonholes that are gorgeous, you can make decorative stitches, and you don't have to get a machine that itself is so complicated that it is more difficult to service. So you have a very powerful 1¼ amp motor in this machine. Runs beautifully, smoothly. You can do free motion quilting here. You can drop your feed dogs, of course, if you want. Again, this machine is what I consider heirloom quality. It is going to be around long after most modern machines are gone. And but anyway, if you have any questions, just email me at the Craigslist posting, and I'll be putting the video up shortly. And I hope this was helpful for you. And anyway, appreciate you watching. Thanks.